everybody. Today we're going to be talking about the parable of the prodigal son. So let's give a small introduction on how Jesus told this parable. So Jesus was talking to the sinners, and the religious leaders have wondered, if you're the prophet of God, why are you surrounding yourself with all these sinners? And then Jesus decided to tell a parable of the prodigal son. So let's basically start the parable. So it starts with a father with two sons. And one of the sons, who was the youngest, wanted to go outside into the outside world and spend all of his father's inheritance. And since he was supposed to take only a bit of it when he inherits it, but he instead took all of it and left the house. The father was devastated, and the older son stayed with the father. The youngest son went outside and partied and wasted all the money, while the father was in the house treating his servants and having a good life. Suddenly, a famine struck the land, and the son was left with nothing. And he was devastated. He had to walk and walk, and since he had no more money, all of the people who he thought were his friends suddenly left him, and all the shopkeepers did not spare him any water or food. He was left hanging, while the father and his son were left in the house with a bunch of meals and drinks for them to supply them while the famine was there. And so the prodigal son had no more pennies left. He had wasted his father's entire inheritance. And Jesus was continuing the parable. So let's get to the interesting part. So he decided to work a job to feed swine, and the owner paid him almost nothing, but he had to do it just to get a little small loaf of bread. So he fed the swine, and all of them stank. But since he was so hungry, he decided to take some food out of the swine's cupboard thingy. And even though it was disgusting and had a foul smell, he decided to eat most of it since he had nothing in his stomach, while all of his servants in his father's house had something to spare, and even them were well fed. So he decided to leave his job and walk all the way to his father's house. After seeing the way back, he walked and walked. And then when his father saw him in the distance, he ran and hugged him very tight. He asked if he could work for his father because he was not worthy to be called his son anymore. But his father told his servants to get him the best robe and clean sandals, and to get him a new ring and many more new things. He even told them to kill the fatted calf just for him. And they decided to throw a huge party since he was home, while the older son, who was stuck with his father for years, was very sad. And he asked, "Father, how come you threw the younger son a very huge party while I've been with you plowing the fields and working, and you never even killed anything just for me?" And he said to his older son, in fact, to be more specific, he said to him that everything that he owns is his. He just needs to celebrate that his son was lost and now he's found. He was dead, but now he's alive. And so the father went inside the room and celebrated that his younger son was alive. Basically, yeah, because he was worried for him. Even though he spent all of the money just for his family, yet he still forgave him. And the father represents God, who always takes us in and forgives us no matter what. And the younger son, who spent all the money, represents us sinners, and God is there just to forgive us. And yes, and And another thing is that the father has unconditional love for his son because he still forgave him even though what he did was very terrible. He partied outside and he made new friends who didn't stay with him until the end, who are technically using him for his money. So yes, that is the
older brother.
And the older brother, basically, I think he represents the religious leaders that,
Unforgiving.
yeah, they are unforgiving and they don't like the fact that God, or let's say the Father, is forgiving all the sinners, aka his brother. So yes, that is what they all represent, and so that's why the parable has a hidden meaning to teach those religious leaders a lesson. So yes, that is the parable of the prodigal son, and I can't believe that the father had such a kind heart, just like Jesus, to forgive his son after doing something very horrible. Well, the older son should have been happy that his younger brother was lost and now he was found. But instead, he got jealous that he got a whole celebration while he did not. I mean, he should still be happy because he gets everything that his father has and he owns everything. But they just need to celebrate that his younger brother got a second chance. And I can't believe that he actually got one, because sometimes it's hard to give second chances to people because maybe you haven't trusted them. So if you give them a second chance, that proves that you really forgave them. So let's say that the father is very forgiving and that now his son has changed his heart and he's now a good son. And maybe, hopefully, he doesn't spend all the money just like that anymore. And the lesson is that you should always be forgiving just like God and have a character just like that, because it really gives a smile to people's faces to give them a second chance, unless sometimes they don't deserve it. There's some scenarios, but that one is really sweet. Yep, that's a lesson. And also it can show how much love that a father can have to his son. Yep, just like that. And basically, the prodigal son is one of the most famous parables that Jesus has said, and there's pretty much many more with many hidden lessons inside it. And it's one of the most easiest but has a very deep and touching meaning in that parable. Yep. So my sister is going to tell the prodigal son story. While Jesus was teaching sinners, people were confused why Jesus chose to teach sinners about God. So they asked him why he chose to associate with sinners. So Jesus told them a story about a father and two sons. The youngest son was wasteful and wanted his father's inheritance now, and his older brother
worked hard. So the younger brother asked his father if he could have his inheritance now, and the father said yes. So the younger son went to a city where he could waste all his money, and he made a lot of friends and he bought stuff for them. But soon a famine struck that place and he had no money left and there was no food around. So he took a job for feeding pigs and he wanted to eat the pig food, but it was very dirty. Yeah. So he thought about his father and wanted to go back home to him. So he walked all the way to his father's house. But when his father saw him, he ran and hugged him and he asked his servants to bring the finest coat and a ring and sandals to give him. And they killed a cow that they have been fattening for ages and they cooked it, and while his older brother was in the fields working, he figured out that his father threw a big party for his younger son. And he said to his father, all these years I've been working for you and your younger son wasted all your money and you give him a big feast and the father said, you should be happy that your younger brother is home. Yeah. Because he was lost, but now he is found.
So that's the story of the prodigal son. And I hope you like the explanation by my teacher and by my sister. And I think it's a wonderful parable in my opinion, and one of the simplest ones, but it actually has a really good meaning. And I actually like it. It's a simple story and it teaches a big lesson. I like that.
Yeah. And you should always be nice to your father and yeah.
And I'm pretty surprised that Jesus was able to tell a parable that's easy to understand, and I actually like the father there because he still forgave his son even though he did something that was very bad. I wonder if I would forgive my son if I had one, if he did all of that. I'm not sure if I could forgive him that easily, but the father literally right away told his servants to kill the calf, the fattened one, and literally threw a whole party even though he literally just came home.
Yeah. And the father still loved his older son because
Yes, and I think that it's a good story, and the older brother should have been happy that his brother was back home and safe and sound, because the father thought what bad things that could have happened to him. He was still concerned about the son, it's himself, not the money. And I think that the father really should have given him a second chance, because who knows what happens if you give a person a second chance. They might even change. But sometimes people aren't just like that. But God is always ready to give us a second chance in life. And even though we do something that is not good, He gives us a second chance pretty much all the time. And that's what the characters represent. The Father as God, and the Son as sinners, just like us, and the older brother probably like the religious leaders. Yeah.
bye, guys.
Goodbye, everyone.